Yeah. Vinyl was so cool because you'd
It's
go. I
so fucking
remember,
cool. Yeah.
I mean, I would buy records in the 70s because
Yeah.
I'm 56. So I
Are you
would,
really?
yeah.
Jesus, you look good, bud.
Oh,
God
thanks.
damn. All right.
It's
Not
I,
bad.
I'm waiting for my
I know.
hair.
I'm
It's going
fucking
gray a little
41.
bit.
Look at me, dude. He's 42. Holy shit, man. That's fucking crazy.
At least for me, it's like I don't want to be like, okay, I want to make a statement about society. So how do I do that? Let me see.
Right.
Let me. And it's not an intellectual process. It's like totally intuitive. So I'll just start doodling, and you kind of feel it when you see something in the doodle. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and it just feels right, and you just kind of keep developing it, and then it's like the art of staying out of your way.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Get Heavy Podcast. We have an amazing episode for you tonight. Artist Chet Zar is on the podcast. If you don't know his name, you absolutely know his artwork from bands like Tool, maybe the Schism video you've seen before, tons of posters. Also, his fine art career is second to none, essentially. And if you didn't know it from that, then you could probably see his work in every awesome fucking movie from the 80s all the way through the 90s, as he was a sculptor and a visual effects artist. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to him, and I hope you all enjoy this episode. Before we do that, I have a few things I want to announce. We are recording our 200th episode live here in Ventura, Saturday, January 27th at the Garage Bar, 1091 Scandia. 21 plus, starts at 12 p.m. It is free. We're going to have a bunch of amazing shit. We got vendors going to be selling some stuff. Outside, we have music by DJ also. We are doing a live podcast in front of an audience, and we are going to be playing games. You guys are going to be able to win merchandise and prizes. 200 episodes is a really big deal for us. That means we have been consistently putting out episodes every week for over 3 years. Now, whether they're good or bad, that's debatable, but we would love to have you guys help us celebrate this achievement. So join us live Saturday, January 27th at the Garage Bar, 12 p.m. Drinks, good times to be had. Another thing, all of these episodes that you're seeing are going to be on Patreon days before they launch to the normal world. So what are you going to get when you get on Patreon? It's a $3 charge to get in. That's $3 monthly fee. I understand some people don't have it. And if you don't, I absolutely still love you anyway. But if you can and you want to support this podcast, you're going to get some more unfiltered, uncut stuff from us. And you're also going to get to see these podcasts days early without having to do anything else. So please subscribe to Get Heavy Podcasts on Patreon, and also check out our merchandise, getheavypodshop.com. There is tons of killer merch. It's high quality shirts, sweatshirts, and hats, printed to order, shipped straight to your house. Really easy, very affordable stuff, and high quality. So getheavypodshop.com. Thank you to everyone that has been listening to this podcast and the growth that we've had in the last few years. It means the world to us. And as always, please like, subscribe, and tell your fucking friends. Enjoy this podcast. Welcome to Get Heavy Podcast. With your host, Craig Casamas and Big J Curran. Dude, so I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start with that. I'm very stoked to have you on. It's really nice. We don't get this caliber of fucking artists on. I'm sure you don't want me to kiss your ass too much, but it's wild, dude. When you started sending me links, and then I talked to Josh and Brett, I was like, oh fuck, okay. So I will say that I actually went to one of your art shows years ago in the early
Oh, really?
2000s. Yeah, my buddy Brooke has a gallery out here at his house. It's called the 86 art gallery,
Mhm.
and it's his house, and floor to ceiling is artwork of some of the most incredible artists on planet fucking Earth. And
Cool.
every single piece has an 86 in it, right?
Oh, wow.
And he has like, I mean, I can't even begin the list. He's got about 300 original art pieces, right?
Crazy.
And I remember going with him to one of your art shows. It was a dark art, like art show, maybe a collaborative kind of thing.
Mhm.
Was it
Like
just
a
you?
group show
But there
or
was a lot of fives and all of your monsters at the time.
Mhm.
Is that
Mhm.
making sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I'm thinking oh 07,
Yeah.
08 ish,
Probably
somewhere in there.
Copros, probably Copro
Maybe
Gallery.
it might have been Copro,
Could have
but it
been
was back in
anywhere.
the day, man. But
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
I remember seeing your art and going, "Holy fuck, dude! This guy,
It's
this is
incredible, man.
yeah,
Oh,
It really
thanks.
is just fucking incredible.
yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
yeah."
I appreciate it. Are
Yeah, it was wild, man.
are we recording?
We are, yeah.
Oh, this is the
I figured,
podcast?
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
that's
it.
okay.
We're
It's
zooming,
totally
dude.
Yeah.
We're doing it. Yeah, I just
it's
figured,
totally cool with me.
just come in,
Uh,
dude.
no,
I don't
yeah,
know how you do. I mean, you have your own podcast, right?
yeah, yeah. Dark
And
Art Society podcast. Yeah, I usually do the 3, 2, 1 count in, but it
oh,
doesn't
do
matter.
you? Sorry, we're
It
not
doesn't matter. It
professionals,
doesn't
dude.
matter. I'm my podcast is super loose too. It's like whatever.
What's
Yeah.
your podcast about?
It's like I interview other dark artists mostly. It's like an interview show and uh dark art adjacent subjects like I don't know, paranormal stuff I'm interested in, horror movies, um spirituality and so it's mostly focused on other artists that kind of do dark stuff, but it also has just kind of like regular artists and people from all over, just cool weird shit sort of.
Just
Yeah.
stuff that you're interested in talking about and people
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
want to talk to.
pretty much.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, it's super fun. I enjoy it, and
Yeah,
people seem to
same.
like it. So I'm gonna
What's
keep
the name of
doing
your
it.
podcast?
It's called the Dark Art Society podcast.
Okay, I'll be checking that out tomorrow for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good interviews on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some. I've been doing a little research, watching some of the interviews and shit, But
Oh, cool.
when it comes into it, I mean, obviously, I like it's crazy. You got a whole ass documentary about you and stuff like that, And I'm a
Yeah.
massive like Tool fan, so I've been seeing your artwork for years, At this
Oh,
point,
cool.
but I guess the trippy thing is that the movie side of it, I had no idea you were so involved with all that shit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Hellboy and all that stuff. I mean, that's how you got your start, right?
Yeah, that was like 20 years of my life, 15,
Yeah.
20 years. Right out of high school, I got hired on some low budget horror movies, and then I got hired on The Blob, that movie, the remake of The
Oh
Blob
yeah.
in
Yeah.
'88, and
Uh-huh.
then that was my dream, was to be in makeup effects, and then after 15 years or so, I'm like, okay, I don't know, I reached a level that I didn't really feel like I could go any further. I was kind of like one of the top sculptors in the business.
Mm,
And it was very, I was starting to get into art. I was always into art, but I was starting to consider like that I wanted to express myself more than just be a pair of hands for other people, for other people's
right.
projects, because most of the projects aren't super cool, like Tool videos or Guillermo del Toro movies. Most of them
Yeah.
are like stupid, Adam Sandler movies or whatever. Just
Yeah.
I'm not
Totally.
really that interested in,
Yeah.
nothing cool and scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's a good job, but it just was. I felt like I wanted to uh,
Do
be
more.
be a fine artist, yeah, kind of. And then I just totally changed gears. I decided when I was about 33, I think. I decided, okay, I'm going to try and be a fine artist, and then I worked my way out of the business over a 7-year period where I was kind of like working in the day
Mm,
at in effects, and then at night I was teaching myself how to paint, getting in shows and stuff like that. And then I got laid off at one point on Land of the Lost, the remake of that TV show Land of the Lost, that
Yeah.
Will Ferrell.
oh, the
That
Will
was
Ferrell one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that was the last movie I worked on, and then I got
Okay.
laid off, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I could either look for another job or I can just go for it. And I just have been kind of like running ever since. I'm like, I'm going to do this art thing and just
Right. Right.
working 7 days a week ever since, pretty much
Yeah. Totally, man.
for like I don't know how many years it is now.
Minimum 20 at least. I mean, since
Well, yeah, I started
yeah,
painting in the early 2000s,
right. Yeah.
and then I left. I think I don't remember when that. I didn't even see the movie. I don't even remember when it came out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a long time, 10, 15, maybe
Yeah.
20 years total.
Yeah.
And then about 10 or something where it was just my full-time job.
Right. No, so like the thing that I love to talk to people about on this podcast specifically is
Mhm.
like, where does that drive come from? You know what I mean? Like, because I grew up, like, a little history on me. I grew up fucking oldest child of three sisters, single mom. At a
Mhm.
very early age, I was basically sat down, and Jay is very much the same. He was on his own since he was a little kid. We
Mhm.
were told that no one's saving you, dude. Like, you either find, and I had parents that had pretty low expectations, but high. Like, my mom was like, you do what, follow your fucking dream. We come
Mhm.
from a family of criminals and nightmares. Like, you're not going to get any worse than our family name. Like, go for it. You know what I mean?
Do
And
what you
so
got to
that's,
do.
yeah, and that's what like drove me to be like, I don't want to be around this shit. But like, what I found was like music and punk rock and fucking all
Mhm.
these things, right? Which gave me this like opportunity to realize that like there's a way you can do shit yourself, and I don't have to run the path of everyone else. So like, do you remember like a switch in your brain when that happened, or is it always kind of just I'm doing my thing, that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, some of my earliest memories are thinking that I was an artist already. And so I was kind of like built my identity on like I was the artist kid, in school when
Uh,
like first grade. It was like I just knew I was an artist and I'd been doing it since I was as long as I could remember, drawing all the time. And so um, it just was like, that that's what I'm gonna do. I just felt like that's what I was. So around 12 years old, I was always into horror movies and stuff and weird dark art and just trippy stuff. And uh I got really interested in makeup effects when I was, I think, well, let me see, 1978
wow.
when Dawn of the Dead came out.
Yeah. Oh,
That
dude,
I
that's
was like,
yeah.
Dawn of the Dead was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is crazy. I gotta learn how to do this stuff." And so I started teaching myself makeup just because I was fascinated with it.
Right.
And I've always just kind of been like that. If I'm interested in something, I really like to learn about it and I like to learn how to do it. I just, I used to like to take things apart all the time and figure out how things work.
What's the
Um,
best?
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah.
So I got into effects, and then my stepdad was a painter, and we were always kind of like feast or famine. So I watched him. It was difficult for him to support a family,
Right.
and so I was just being kind of practical. I fell in love with makeup effects. I didn't
Right.
live that far from Hollywood. I was
Right.
from San Pedro, and so it's like a 45-minute drive or something. And I thought, the only thing I'd want to paint would be these weird monsters, and there's no market for that. And I see how my
Right.
my stepdad struggled. His name's
He has some good work.
God, his work's good.
His work
When
is
Yeah,
I watched
very,
the
very
documentary, I
cool.
was like,
Yeah.
God damn,
yeah, yeah,
he's an
yeah.
artist.
He was he
Yeah.
was he was amazing, and
Yeah.
he was a super cool dude too. Super
Yeah.
super cool guy.
Yeah.
Um,
To have an amazing stepdad is a feat in its own. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, as
yeah,
a
yeah,
dad, you're a dad, right? Like,
yeah,
raising someone else's child and loving them unconditionally is
yeah.
fucking wild, dude. You know what I mean?
Crazy. I
Not that
know.
it can't happen, but most of the
Right.
time it does not happen the way you think it would.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did the same thing.
Yeah.
You ended up raising
Yeah.
another child, and
Mhm.
he seems to be pretty cool and doing his thing, and
Yeah.
seems like he's into that artist talent mode as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I have a stepson, but that's my biological son, Fritz, the
Oh,
Oh,
drummer.
is it? Okay. All
Yeah,
right. All
yeah.
right.
But it's funny because his fiance has 2 little girls, she's divorced
okay. So you're
and
a hot
so
ass grandpa, dude.
yeah, so
Watch
yeah,
out.
grandpa, and it's so cool because they're yeah, we met them when they were 3 and 4, so they don't ever know, they don't ever remember not even knowing us. So it
Right.
Yeah.
might as
Right.
well be
Yeah.
blood, and so we're
Yeah.
that close anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, and he came at a time when it was like my original family with my biological dad just they got divorced. Everything was chaotic and totally fucked up. And then he came around and he was such a cool, positive influence.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My life could have totally gone in a different direction if he didn't come around and kind of make things right in a way. You know,
Right.
who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows? Because it's like I saw, I don't know, it just kind of changed. It was like a positive influence for me.
Yeah,
But
when you grow up in like chaos, you know what I mean? Like, which I did, single family
mhm,
home, and my dad was not in my life largely for most of it. It's like,
mhm,
the burden of a fucking child to like want everything to be okay and try to
yeah,
do that, like it switches something in your brain, you know what I mean? And you can't, like, I'll never get away from that part, but
yeah,
it's like if you can use it to drive somewhere, you know what I mean? Like if you have a positive influence in your life, someone telling you can do it, take this weird shit, this weird energy, and go somewhere with it. You can.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was always supportive, and my mom was
Yeah.
always supportive of it. They never thought it was weird because I was always doing monster stuff. But that
Yeah.
was actually part of the way I coped with um the divorce. And my brother and sister like fought like,
Crazy.
baseball bats and shit, throwing knives at each other, shit like that. So
Yeah.
I was like always hiding in my room drawing. I totally withdrew into my artwork. So, and I think probably all these monsters was probably an expression of the anxiety and stuff I was feeling. So, um, it just kind of shows the healing power of art and how, if you can channel negativity into art and have it be like a healing thing. Because then
Mm.
I grow, it kind of led me into this career in makeup effects, and that led me into being a fine artist, creating all this weird
Right.
monster shit. And I was able to take that, trauma and turn it into something good for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, I can see that, man. I mean, like when it comes into horror movies and shit, because I'm like a horror movie fan. I lived with a horror movie fanatic, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like, for years. And like I remember my buddy Tony showing me Dead Alive for the
Oh
first
yeah.
time.
That's a
And I
classic.
was like, holy shit. Have you ever seen that? Jay?
No,
Oh,
man.
dude.
It's insane. It's
Jane's like a little
insane.
behind, dude.
No, no,
And
way behind. I don't
I mean,
watch any of that
that
shit.
is that
Nothing.
Jay grew up in it. So he grew
Yeah.
up in the streets fucking running.
Yeah, nightmare stuff, man. I seen dead bodies and stuff pretty young
No way,
and lived
really?
around some pretty crazy shit. So I have
Yeah.
no use for any type of adrenaline pump other
Right.
than,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing like Dead Alive or those old movies back, where you're like, or even, you get into the trauma films and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and you're like, there's some psycho motherfucker making this stuff, dude. Like, there's some weirdo that like imagine this dude's head getting scalped and brains flying out of his head,
Right.
and that's you apparently,
Well,
yeah,
that's the thing is like,
good job.
most of the people, and you'll hear this in like, I think this is true for like punks but you hear this a lot in the metal community
Oh
as
yeah,
well. It's like they're the nicest people. People that are
right,
into horror movies, they're super nice. All the
right,
artists I interview that do like dark ass shit,
yeah,
these dark paintings, they're super cool. They're like most of them are animal lovers. They're really like deep
Yeah.
chill people.
yeah.
And I think it's, we get it out creatively. So
Through
it's
that,
not,
yeah,
it's not
Yeah.
like, because everybody's got that in them. Everybody has that
yeah,
darkness. And it's just
yeah,
like, if you can acknowledge it and do something productive with it, then you're good. But if you pretend like it's not there, that's when it fucks you up, you know?
I mean,
yeah,
you really went and followed that with the going through the Ouija boards and then the
Mhm.
art, and then like you really engulfed it all,
yeah,
and it's just it's just really cool.
Yeah.
I've avoided it as much as possible. I'm still doing it.
yeah.
If it ain't
I
funny, I ain't watching it.
Jay's demons are still running
No,
after him
man,
right
it's
now.
horrible, bro. It's horrible.
Yeah, I understand. Well, everybody deals with it differently. Everybody's different.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was like, as far as the Ouija board and stuff, it's like my mom was always there was always like ghosts in the house. My mom
yeah,
was psychic and used to have weird she would see ghosts, have weird precognitive dreams. My sister used to see stuff. And so it was like I was just raised with that. It
yeah.
wasn't that weird. So, doing the Ouija board and getting into all that stuff was not really
Not a
that
next.
it
Yeah,
was cool. It was like, oh man, this is
Yeah.
cool. It wasn't
yeah,
like, oh my God, I'm gonna be possessed by a demon. It was like totally fun.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I
I
get
don't
you.
know.
Well, so it's like I found like there's people in the universe that open up like whether it's a natural thing or some spiritual thing where you're naturally more open to things like that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because I've met people like in my house, I have 3 kids. I have a wife. You know how hard a fucking poltergeist would have to work to get noticed in this motherfucking house? Like
Yeah.
it'd be fucking chaos, right? You'd have I
Yeah,
might come
yeah.
in every day and doors and cabinets are open. And I'm like, watch one of you fucking kids. You know what I mean? Like so, but when you grow up, like there, I really do think because I've met and as much as I want to poo-poo like ghosts and shit, I do believe that there's like energy that gets imprinted into things that are left behind that
Yeah.
can manifest whatever. Like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you believe, right?
Yeah, it's
I
like
think
who knows what any of that shit is, but
who knows,
it is
right?
something.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it is. People call it ghosts, spirits. It might not be that at
Do you
all, but
have an opinion on it? Like, do you think
I,
you have an? I know you done a lot of DMT, buddy. You know, your friends are telling me
well,
all kinds of shit about you.
I didn't. I've only had one DMT experience where I only have done it once
Oh,
where
okay.
I crossed over, but I've done like acid and mushrooms and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
mushroom. Oh, the mushies, dude. I love a mushy. I love a mushy trip.
Yeah,
Jay's
yeah.
probably on it right now. No,
Not today.
not today.
But there's a lot of it that's been going on for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what was the question?
But like, do you believe that
Oh, ghosts
do
and
you
all
have
that.
a definite like what the fuck is going on, or like in your opinion, do you
I,
see anything for the end of this? Like, what happens? You know, like
yeah, I
as far
don't
as like
think.
imprinting, it being left behind, like ghosts and shit like that. Like,
Yeah, it's like I don't think you can know for sure, but my end point is like it is real. It's just who knows what it is. I don't know what it is, and
right,
but I don't mind talking about it using terms like ghosts and spirits because it's just a way of talking about whatever this phenomenon is,
right,
and I'm cool with that. Some people will be like, "Oh no, go that's a dumb idea that a spirit would be wandering around," but it's like who knows any of this shit because it's like everything you see is filtered through your brain. It's like maybe ghosts are some kind of like you're saying, some kind of energy
yeah,
that for whatever reason makes you see it in your brain outside in the room. For
totally,
whatever, who
Yeah.
knows?
yeah,
Who knows? Because but it's like it's something. And I
yeah.
don't think I don't know. I just I have no idea, but I do think it is a thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Do you experience that stuff now, like well into your adulthood? Is that something that you like?
Uh
You get a weird vibe, you know, something like someone's watching you kind of shit, like still to this day, or is
no,
it kind of gone now?
no, I mean I never really saw a lot of ghosts, but I have out of body experiences all the
Yeah,
time. Like
yeah.
all the time. Like what I
You still
mean,
do, huh?
yeah, like
Wow,
every 3 to 6 months maybe.
wow.
It's
Out of body
weird.
how?
Like I go to sleep. It's like sleep paralysis.
Oh, okay.
There's a movie called a documentary called The Nightmare you will hate. So don't
Yeah,
watch
no, I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
good.
Jay, will-
Yeah.
he's the worst. He's like, I'm like, you should watch this. It's terrifying. He's like, no, I lived it. I'm good.
it's
I
all
don't need.
it's all anecdotal stuff, but
uh,
and it's just interviews with people who've had this sleep paralysis, and it's like, man, I've had that, so I know they're not making it up
It
because
is
they
it
have
is bad.
it's 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 not always bad. It's
Well,
not always bad.
when I've had it when I
Yeah,
was younger,
it's
and
scary.
I hated it, man.
Yeah, it's
Like that whole
scary,
can't move, can't, and
terrifying.
everything's going on, and you can't. You're
Yep.
just stuck,
yeah,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can't do anything.
it's horrifying.
Yeah,
It's got this like it's actually got this other level of terror, like this spiritual level of terror. When
right.
I've had it, the bad times, it's like deeper than regular fear. It's like this weird
Oh
primal
yeah,
fear. But other times I've had it and it's amazing. Like it feels like you're tripping on ecstasy or something. It's just like you're floating around and it's like, "Oh my God, this is like the real reality." It's kind of like a trip, like a really going really far on a psychedelic trip. It's it's like they're related somehow, I think. But
right.
yeah, I've had uh I have that a lot. I don't know. I've all since I was a kid, I've had it quite a bit. And so I've
Are
had a
you
lot of
able? Like, have you figured out how to like? Can you control it? Like, do you
no.
notice that when it
I can
happens? No.
I've never been able to induce it.
My dad has it.
Oh,
And
yeah?
yeah, and it's happened to him a few times, but only when he was in a really dark space in his life.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
it a couple times in my life where, but my wife is an absolute lucid dreamer. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
bitch can totally notice that she's in a dream and then change it. Like,
Yeah.
like
I've done
that's
that
crazy.
a
Because
couple
I'm
times.
like,
It's so cool.
I dream of apocalypse, alien invasions. I'm like a very vivid dreamer.
Yeah, me
Like I
too.
wake up every morning ready for war. Like I'm like, this is fucking it. Like I'll start asking her weird questions. She's like, fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, well, I've been fighting aliens all night. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like we're in this now. Like
They're
this
so
is
scary when you have
happening.
you ever had those dreams where you see a nuclear bomb
Oh yeah.
going off as
Yeah.
like, and it's so big
Yeah.
and you're like, oh shit, it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
I've had, or like giant tidal waves,
Yep.
you know,
Oh
but I have had some like twice that I can think of. I've had lucid dreams, and they're really similar to the whole night terror uh 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 that thing we were just talking about
the
where
outer
you,
body
Yeah.
experience.
yeah, the out of body thing. It's like
Yeah.
they're related because
Yeah.
I've had out of bodies that like turn into a lucid dream or
Right.
turn into a dream. Um, but only twice in the where I've been lucid in a dream where I was able to like go, oh, I'm lucid. Okay, I'm gonna start flying around and
Right.
like
Right.
I went once. One was like there was a basketball net, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and bite that backing board, and I went like bit into it, and I was like flying around, just doing like all kinds of stupid stuff that would be impossible.
That's wild, man. Fucking dreams are nuts, man. Do you have any like? Does any of your artwork come to you in dreams at all, or is it all just you
No,
drawing, like you
no,
trial and error?
that's the weird thing. I mean, I can't think of any dream I've had that had a cool creature in it. They always are like they're super scary
Okay,
sometimes, but if I see a monster, it looks like a paper mache carnival, something you'd see in a cheesy carnival.
okay,
It just looks fake and weird.
that's wild.
Yeah, and they don't
Yeah,
look cool at all. It's really strange. Maybe because I'm always getting them out all the time.
yeah, maybe they're not.
So where does it come from though? Like when you do you just sit down, you start, and then
What's the
as
process?
you start going, it just starts to form itself.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's weird. It's hard to explain. I was talking to someone about it recently, and it's like someone asked me my process, and it's like, you don't want to sound like a douche, but
Right,
but it really is hard to explain. I was trying to like it's like a it sounds pretentious, but it's really not. It's like you're feeling your way through it. At least when you're designing a painting or a drawing, it's like you're kind of just doodling and trying not to get in the way of it or think too hard.
right,
At least for me, it's like I don't want to be like, okay, I want to make a statement about society. So how do I do that? Let me see.
right.
It's not an intellectual process. It's like totally intuitive. So I'll just start doodling, and you kind of feel it when you see something in the doodle. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and it just feels right, and you just kind of keep developing it, and then it's like the art of staying out of your way.
Yeah,
It's weird. It's
I
really
can see it.
weird. It's like that with songwriting. You're in a
That's very
bands.
similar to songwriting.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean? Are
I
you
was
a
a
musician? Do you play
yeah,
music? Like,
yeah, yeah. I
what
was
did you play?
guitar and
Okay,
singing, and I had a really cool punk band and post punk kind of band in 86, 87.
what was that? What was that called?
It was called Skin Horse.
Fuck yeah, dude.
They were
That's
good.
all.
We
Yeah.
were good. It was like a minute. You ever heard Fire Hose?
Oh fuck yeah. Yeah.
It was very Fire
Yeah.
Hose influenced.
Yeah.
But it was like Fire Hose but more hardcore.
Okay.
It was a
Awesome.
really good band. I wish it would
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
gone somewhere.
Watts, right?
Yeah, Mike Watt.
Mike
Mhm.
Watt. Mike Watt
Yeah.
was in the Minutemen. He's an incredible fucking bass player.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's like
But yeah,
one of
he
my
had a band
heroes.
called
And he's
Fire
from
Hose, which
yeah,
yeah,
he's from San Pedro too,
which that guy.
strangely
Did
enough.
you ever hear the story about how Fire Hose came to
Yeah.
be? That guy
Yep.
fucking camped on his lawn for like months. The guitar player, I guess. Did you hear about that?
Well, what I heard
I don't know if
was,
it's true. Maybe it's lore now, but I don't know.
do you know that band Camper Van Beethoven?
Yes.
Remember them?
Yep.
I love that band also.
Uh-huh.
He was at a Camper Van Beethoven show, from what I
Okay.
heard, and D Boone, the guitar player from Minutemen, had died,
Uh-huh.
and they were kind of fucking with this guy, and they said, "Yeah, Mike Watt's looking for a guitar player," and this guy could kind of barely play guitar. He was just
Uh-huh.
teaching himself guitar, so I guess he drove out to Pedro or bugged him until he let him try out, even though he wasn't looking to start another band.
Right.
And I think he came out and was sleeping under his desk for months, and Mike Watt kind of taught him all these songs and taught him sort of how to play the guitar, and then they had this amazing band after.
Yeah. Yeah. The lore I heard was that he just basically would show up at his house every day, like, "What's up, dude? How are you?"
Yeah, it could be.
Like,
Yeah,
which that's rad,
it could
But
be part of it. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
commitment.
your artistic style, because I'm a musician, right? I played music for 20 years,
What did
heavy
you
metal.
play?
I was a guitar player in most of my bands. I was
Oh,
in a band
cool.
called the fucking Wrath. It was real gnarly. We were on like TP Records, like the same company,
Oh,
like as High on Fire and shit.
cool.
And real like High on Fire type shit.
Hmm.
And but that is the process of me writing, along with a lot of musicians, is like when you hear artists talk about their process, a lot of them have a vision. They have a thing that they want to do,
Hmm.
right? But like musicians, and the way that, like, what's so interesting about your process is that it's just you pull it out of the ether.
I know,
And
it's
when you show
crazy.
up every fucking day and you do the work and you sit down with the guitar
Yeah.
and you don't have anything, and all of a sudden 3 chords make sense, and then
Yeah,
now it's
exactly.
4 chords, and now you
Yeah.
find a fucking bridge. You're like, "Okay." And
Yeah,
that, like,
yeah.
to see your art process like that is very fucking crazy, because you're pulling out of the ether. Like, I really truly believe that. You
Hmm.
grab ideas from the fucking universe. Like, if you put yourself in the position, you can grab that shit and
Yeah,
pull it in
I
with
totally agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, that's how it is because the reason I never even, I was not like a big guitar guy. Like I always liked drums as an instrument. I was
Sure.
always been a music fan, but as far as wanting to play, but I taught myself to play guitar so that I could write music. That's what
Right.
was my main thing. I wanted to write music. So I was like the main songwriter.
Right.
And and it's like it's the same process for me. It was like you just noodle around until you hear something
Right.
cool, and then you're like, oh, and you start playing with that thing, and
Yep.
then you think, oh, where can I go next with this? Doo-doo-doo, and then if it feels right, you can tell if it feels
Yeah.
right. At least, especially for someone like me who wasn't educated musically, I was
Right.
all self-taught. So it was like if it feels like right, then you keep
Yeah.
following it, and then it's like this thing is leading you
Right.
to create it. It's such a weird mystical thing,
It
It's
is.
like
It's
you're
wild.
following this thing. It's
Yeah,
magical.
I've chased it many times in my life, and like now, like stepping back, because I don't really play music that much anymore.
Yeah,
I
me
got a lot
either.
of things going on.
Mhm.
I'll listen to like my old, like, everyone. I'm not very nostalgic, but like every once in a while, I'll listen to like one of my old records, put it on, and be like, "How the fuck did I write that?" Like,
Yeah, right.
there's no way. Or it's like, I wonder, like, do you ever look back at your paintings and be like, "What the fuck was going on there?" Like, how the, like,
Yeah, so
I mean, you have the skill set to be you're a master of your craft, right? I mean,
oh,
we
thanks.
can all craft the things, but like, do you ever? I get lost in shit sometimes where I'm like, how the fuck did, like, what weird universe was I in when I created this fucking thing? I wonder if
Yeah,
like artists
yeah.
ever look back on their shit and look at it like that. Like, holy fuck, man, I was on a
Yeah,
good one that day.
yeah, exactly. Where did that come from? Or I
Or
wasn't on a
that
good
was
one.
bad. That was real
Yeah.
bad.
I've done that recently, looking at some of my old paintings that I
Have
thought
you?
were really good, and I was like, "Oh, man, I shouldn't have put those online." But
Yeah.
but, it's an interesting, thing about, I put out this book recently, I don't a couple of years ago now, called Dystopia,
Right.
and it's a mythologizing of all of the paintings I've done. It's sort of like because 'cause they're all characters,
Right.
and, so it's basically tells who the characters are in this world called Dystopia,
Okay.
and the way that, I painted all the stuff intuitively, and then this guy who wrote the text for the book, the guy who directed the, documentary, Mike Carell, he interviewed me about all my paintings, and then I was like he would say, "Okay, what does that mean?" And I would be like, "Oh, that guy is blah, 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 and he's doing that to that guy." And I never had thought about that before. And
Mm.
it was like it never occurred to me. I just
Right.
knew it. And so once he interviewed me all these paintings, it's like, "Oh shit, there's a whole story here." And it's like it's a world, it's this other dimension,
Right.
and it all makes sense. it's so weird because it's like, I didn't know I knew that, and then the
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah, it's
that,
just there.
yeah. And then there are certain things about the paintings I was like, wasn't really sure. So we just left all that stuff out. Anything that wasn't like, oh yeah, for sure, this is what this character's all about. We just put that in, and then it's like, so it's kind of like a dungeon master guide almost in a
Oh,
way
that's
of
cool,
all my
man.
paintings. Yeah, it really
So
came
you have
out
like a whole
great.
universe that you've accidentally
Yeah,
built,
accidentally,
essentially. Yeah.
unknowingly created, which is
Right.
like, what is more cosmic than that?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Insane,
Yeah.
what could be more
crazy.
possibly true?
Yeah,
So the
Yeah.
dystopia book, is it more of an, it's just more of an art book that's explaining the characters,
totally.
right? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called dystopia.
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Okay.
it's kind of like an an art book disguised as a field guide, sort of. So
Okay.
it's really like an art book, but each painting kind of tells what's happening in the painting and who the character is. So it's pretty neat.
Have you thought about getting with somebody and that's maybe a creative writer and work that story out into an actual book form?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I want to maybe do. I mean, I'd love to see it like as a movie or a TV series. That's my
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
ultimate dream.
Right.
But I thought maybe a comic book would be a good place to
Yeah.
start because
Yeah.
I do have the story now. There is a
Yeah.
story that's not in the dystopia book. There's like because it really is like the field guide that just tells kind of like the rules of the world and how it works. And after he interviewed me about all these characters, there is a story. There's like a good guy, and there's like these bad guys.
Right.
The kind of typical storyline. And so, yeah. So I was thinking maybe do it as a comic. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of finding time to do it.
Well,
Do you
after
think
this podcast, let's talk because I have some pretty good connections with some comic illustrators and like a
Cool.
whole comic book thing that'll I could put you in touch with them, dude. It'd be fucking
Cool.
great. Yeah, it'd be pretty good. But yeah, it's weird. I'm sorry, Jay. Do you have something you were?
Oh, I totally
Yeah.
forgot what I was
Okay.
saying. You know that.
It's just weird. Like it's very weird that you can create
I
a
do
book.
that every episode
Yeah.
of my
Oh,
podcast at
Yeah.
least one
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really wild, man. Like when you open yourself up to allow yourself to like show up for your own work, right? Which taking a chance on yourself is like you could have made a lot of money.
So you meditate a lot and you do a lot of this stuff, and then you live this childhood where you're in your room and you're creating and you're doing this. Do you think that maybe that storyline came through maybe reading and being a part of this creative self inside of yourself, and then it just kind of through like the meditative states that you go into and all that it just kind of naturally flowed out in your art form?
Yeah, I mean because that's what painting for me, painting really is kind of like a form of meditation where you're
Yeah.
like trying not to think about what you're doing and just getting into the painting and letting it dictate to you what it wants to be. So you have to kind of like not try too hard. It's this weird. It's weird. It's a weird like trying to stay out of the way of it. And
Right.
yeah, I mean I think it's the magic of your your subconscious. If you're
Yeah.
if you're able to connect with it and let it out, it will give you something of value,
Yeah.
something that
Right.
can help you. Or that's why I think as artists, um, we're lucky because we're able to access that thing, and it can really be like therapeutic too. Like you can
Right.
kind of like access parts of yourself that are really hard to get to
Right.
normally,
Yeah.
maybe through therapy or something, but you can kind of like do it naturally, so you could see what's going on in my head, what's going on in my
Right.
soul or whatever, and it's helpful and kind of healing, I think.
I think I need to get some finger paints.
Yeah. That's the thing too, is like anybody can do it. You don't have to be great at it.
Right.
It's like you could just do
Yeah.
it for fun, and
Right.
it's good for you still. You don't have to show anybody, you just do it for fun. That's all. The only reason I ever did it when I was a little kid was just because it was fun to do. It wasn't
Right.
like I wasn't thinking anything beyond that. And then when I decided to be a painter, that's why I started painting monsters, is because I didn't know what to do really. I just knew I wanted to get into fine art, and I thought that I wanted it to be like super pure and real because I was working in the film industry where everything was the opposite of that pretty much. It was more
Right.
like it's got to make money and it's got to look like this and blah blah. It's art directed, and I wanted something that was true and real. So I
Right.
thought, the most real I've ever been was when I was a kid drawing without any kind of agenda or
Right. Right.
any
Yeah.
trying to do anything other than enjoy myself. And so I was like, well, I'll try painting monsters. That's what I used to do when I was a kid, just for
Yeah.
fun. So, and then it was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be
This
doing.
is natural. This is you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
at first, I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. No one's gonna buy this
Yeah,
shit.
I know. Yeah, but I mean, dude, it hit a nerve. I mean, just
I know it was
you
crazy.
know,
Like
watching the schism videos and the fucking like as a headbangers ball, bro. Like
yeah,
when Tool fucking videos came on, you were fucking. I mean, I was like, what the fuck,
I know
as a
this is
teenager, because I'm 41, right? So I grew up in the 90s. So it was like my
okay.
prime time, and
Hmm.
that's when all that shit was happening. And you watch that
Yeah.
shit, and you're like, I mean, I don't think I don't. Did you have anything to do with the claymation shit? Like, I know the
Uh,
schism video is a whole nother thing, but it's just like
yeah.
their
I
whole direct, like their whole thing is like so fucking artistic and weird
yeah.
and dark, and you're like,
Hmm.
God damn, dude, because you'd be watching like, a Cannibal Corpse video or something, which is sick, but then or a Pantera video, and then all of a sudden Tool comes on, and you're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, as a 14-year-old, I'm starting to think about things, what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
trip, what I mean? Like to have a hand in that is incredible.
Yeah. I was really fortunate.
What's your relationship with those guys now? I'm sure it's still decent, right?
I mean, I'm friends with the guitar player with Adam Jones.
Yeah. Which is fuck, that guy's so good. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, he's
Uh,
great. And that's how I met him in Makeup Effects before
okay.
Tool or
Yeah.
anything. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we text from time to time. I'll do a poster for the tour,
Yeah.
once in a while. But yeah, I did some. I never did the stop motion stuff, but I did some of the puppets for. Let me see. It was not the first. Oh, I started working with them on Stink Fist, where I did
Okay.
some. That was like some. I didn't. Most of the stuff I didn't do. I just did kind of some fill-in work. I did some
Sure.
makeup days on set, and I did this tumor thing at the end of the
Yeah.
video. There's like a weird tumor thing.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay. Yeah.
puppet. I did
Remember
that
that one.
thing, and then after that, the Anima video.
Yep.
I did the. We made the puppets for that, which I think was the first time silicone puppets were ever used, as far as I know, because they had to be waterproof
Really?
because they were all shot with water, real water
Oh.
on the sets. The sets were all like, I don't know if you remember, but there's like water
Yeah.
going up and down, and so they
Yeah.
had to be normal stop motion puppets used to be foam latex, and they're like a sponge.
Yeah.
So we had to make them out of silicone. So yeah, so I did in the Schism and uh Parabola. There was like a silicone puppet we did for that, and then I did some stuff for Vicarious, but that was design work, just kind
Oh,
of.
okay. Yeah.
Alex Gray did the designed sort of the inner world. That
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that video either, but it's like there's an inner world and then there's an outer apocalyptic world, and I kind of
Right.
designed the outer apocalyptic world, and he designed the inner Alex Gray world.
Fuck, dude. So when I went to New York a long time ago, right when my first kid was born, it must have been fuck 15 years ago, and we went to the Alex Gray museum in New
Oh
York.
yeah. Mhm.
And I was already a big fan, dude. And to see that guy's work in person
Yeah, it's
is
amazing.
is fucking incredible. I mean,
I
I
know.
just don't like. Have you ever spent time with him at his like compound or any of that shit, or do you do
Uh
any of that stuff or no?
I
Alex Ray is fascinating to me. I'm like, you
he's
are
Yeah.
a fucking,
su-
you are on
s-
another dimension, dude. You know what
yeah,
I
and
mean?
he's super cool.
I'm
He's
sure he
super
seems very
super
nice. Yeah.
nice. Um I met, that's one of the first when I was first trying to be a fine artist.
Uh huh.
I had like some digital paintings I was working on. I hadn't really done anything, and I had made a little portfolio that I could, I don't know, show around. And Adam set up a meeting with Alex because he was in town, and he said, and he looked, and I was like, "Here's my book." It was like my first stuff, and he
Are
was
you
like,
serious?
"Yeah."
That's
And
crazy.
he was looking through it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you'll make it." It was just like, and it was, I was like, "Oh shit."
For
So I
that
was
guy
like,
to say that is
for him
That's
to
incredible.
say
way
that,
cool.
because I was not friends. I was a fan of his when his book first came out
Right.
in like the early 90s. I remember seeing his book.
Right.
I bought his book and I was like a fan before Tool, before
Yeah.
he
Oh
was
yeah.
involved
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Tool.
Yeah.
And so for him to be say that was like, whoa, that's okay. Maybe,
I'm on the
it's a
right track here.
boost. Yeah. Confidence booster. And then I went and saw him when they were building Entheon. It
Mhm.
was just kind of like partially built, and he gave us a little tour. Yeah, it was
Right.
cool. And he was in my documentary. He was at this event that I was at when they were shooting, and he was cool enough to do an interview for that. And yeah, he's amazing, super great guy.
But yeah, have you never gone out there and like because he does some trippy shit out there, dude. I mean, it's like he's got a whole
Yeah,
universe built out there, man.
yeah, I know. I
And
haven't.
like the architecture, just the architecture
I
of the building
know.
alone is like,
I
fuck. You
know.
know
It's
what I mean?
amazing.
I'd love to check that out. You know what
I
I mean?
know. I've been watching the whole process, like
Yeah,
from the web, and I remember him talking about it back when I met him too, when they were just kind of starting it, I think. And I did. I mean, I walked the grounds, but it was before anything was really
before anything
built.
was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it was. They had some stuff there. It was really amazing,
It's
really
wild,
cool
man. There's
area.
only, I feel like there's only a handful of true visionaries in the world. You know,
Hmm.
in like, he's definitely top. You know, and like
Yeah,
one of the top of the list of just,
yeah,
you know, I think about like your thing as like a construction worker. You know, it's just like what I do. Like I used to build roads and freeways and shit. Taking fucking construction orders from that guy would be like
yeah. Right.
nightmare, dude. He's like, can we add another fucking intricate face onto this? You're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, dude, what the fuck? You
He's
know, but
super funny too.
I'm
He's
sure he
like
is.
got a
Yeah.
great sense of humor, laid back, and just makes you feel at ease. Really friendly. Just a really great person. He's got a great energy about him.
Yeah, I
You know.
bet. But for him
Yeah,
to even give you the fucking attaboy like that
I
is like
know.
what
It
Pretty
a
was
huge
awesome,
like
deal,
man.
man. I mean,
it was like
Takes a little pressure off you.
wow.
yeah, yeah. It was one of those little linchpins
Yeah.
along the way. Like it's funny because it's Martin Luther King Day today.
It is, yeah.
Yes,
And,
sir.
Totally.
and I remember Martin Luther King Day, I don't know how many years ago it was, early 2000s when before I became a fine artist,
Uh-huh.
uh, I was trying to get out of effects to do digital stuff because, also I lived through I came into makeup effects during the peak, like right after the thing. And
Right.
it was like slowly kind of going downhill. And then Jurassic Park came out, and every makeup effects person was like, oh my God, we're going to be out of a job. So I was trying to
Right.
like learn
The
new
CGI thing came along.
yeah, and I was into it. I liked it. It was interesting, and so I got really into it because it was like you could make these little art films, which I did a bunch of stuff for Tool for their live shows,
Okay.
uh
All the
3D
visuals.
animations because I was just into it.
Nice.
But so I was like thinking, but I was stuck in that kind of service mentality of being in the film industry. Like, what can I do in the film industry using digital stuff? That's like the future. And so I was thinking I could do visual effects, right? So
Right.
I put together a reel of stuff on video, videotape, big
Yeah.
giant videotape, VHS tape. And it was stuff that Tool used actually in their live shows, and still use some of it to this
Oh,
day.
really? That's
Yeah, they're
Wow.
still using it. Um, but I had a connection with Clive Barker. You know Clive
Oh,
Barker?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I with my old boss at the other shop I was at, we were gonna do like a toy line with him. So we
Okay.
met with him. Really cool guy. I had his phone number somehow. So it was Martin Luther King Day, and I had to go into work because we were on some crazy deadline. I was working at Rick Baker's, and I called him. I sent him my video, like thinking maybe he'd give me some work,
Uh-huh.
and for some project he was on. And so I remember I called him on Martin Luther King Day, and he answered the phone like direct his line, and I'm like, hey, did you have a chance to look at my tape? And he's like, oh, sorry, yeah, we don't do business on holidays. And I was like, oh man, it's so embarrassing. He's like, call back tomorrow. So I called him back the
Uh-huh.
next day, and he's like, I don't have any work for you, but I think you should really think about being a fine artist because you have a vision.
Yeah.
And it was like
Wow.
that was like the first time it kind of hit me over the head, like, oh shit, maybe I really should follow
Wow.
this fine art thing.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, that was one of the important things that led me to
Catalyst.
actually
Yeah.
Yeah.
pursue it. And then the Alex Gray thing was another thing along the way that kind of like
Right.
pushed me again. And so my wife was like, we had just bought a house,
Right.
and I was like, I'm going to be a fine artist. And she's like, all right, if you
Cool,
think you
dude.
can do it. And she
Yeah.
was totally supportive. So it was like, there was
Yeah.
all these little things that kind of supported me doing this.
How long did it take from you switch? Because I know, like, you work in the movie industry. Everything you work on is bastardized and manipulated and tweaked. The original vision is wildly
Or
far
cut
from the
out of the
or
movie
cut
after you
out. Yeah,
spent 3 months on
you
it.
yeah, you 3 months on a thing, and all of a sudden it's a half a second fucking flash, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I could see that, like, as an artist being like, motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how long did it take before, like, fine art it worked? You're like, what the fuck? Like, was it immediate
No,
success, or did
no,
you
no.
struggle for a few
It,
years?
it was, there used to be this, group monthly group show called Cannibal Flower, where a lot of the
Okay.
artists that are kind of successful now got their start there. It was a month, one night art party at a warehouse. It was super
Okay.
cool, and they had bands play, and it's like you take your painting there Friday, the show's Saturday, and you have to go back Sunday to pick it up. And
Wow.
if you don't, it gets stuck in a storage unit somewhere, and good luck getting it
Oh my
getting it
God.
back, because they're just like, it's kind of seat of their pants sort of thing. But
Uh-huh.
so I started showing there, and any place, coffee shops, any place that would have me, any place that would have me, I was like, because especially with the stuff I was doing, nobody was doing, there
Yeah.
wasn't dark art. You could really find it hardly anywhere. It was really
Right.
kind of a not as accessible as it is nowadays. But um, so I didn't really sell much at first. It was very slow. It took a few years. I think maybe a couple years. I would sell little things. I got a website. I started selling. I was prints, but
Yeah.
it was really slow building everything up. And then MySpace, I started making contacts through MySpace and selling
Fucking
that way.
Tom's buying prints
Yeah,
from you
Tom.
for Tom.
And then and so it was, but it was a slow grind. It
Yeah.
was just and it's like, I don't know how I did it, because I could not do it now. Just
Right.
working 8 hours in Glendale, driving back to Monrovia, and then
Right.
working at night until 11 or 12 or 1, and then going to sleep, getting up, going to work. I did that every fucking day. And then both days on the weekends, I would work to painting, and it was just like fucking 7 years straight of that. It was
Wow.
crazy, but I was so determined, man, because I also wasn't happy in effects anymore. So I was like, I have to get out of it.
Right.
It just got to a point where I was like, this isn't me anymore. I don't feel like, before it was my thing. It was my main thing since I was 12 years old. And then I did it and experienced it and did it for 15 or 20 years or whatever it was. And I just was like, I'm not feeling it anymore. It's just, I
Yeah.
don't feel like I belong here, and I don't know how to do anything else really. So I don't want to be stuck here, because a lot of people stay in the film industry, and they get old and then they get bitter
Right.
because they are, all the things, all the compromise, all the bullshit and stuff. And so I was like scared that I was stuck there. So that was one of the things that lit the fire under my ass. Like, I have to get out of this so I have
Right.
some kind of future. Because when you're in as an effects guy, when I first started, every job was like, oh, that's a portfolio piece. This is so I can get another job.
Right.
Every movie you do, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is
You're
on my
only as good as
resume.
your last day on the job.
Yeah, and so every job is exciting. Accomplish
Yeah.
something, and then you've got this resume, so you can get jobs. And the better your resume, the better jobs, the more you can earn. And then I got to a point where I had a reputation. I didn't need a resume or a portfolio. I could get Everybody knew me, so I could just get a job because I was, a good sculptor.
Right.
And so at that point, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just only doing this for the money now. There's nothing more. There's nothing to lead me forward, because I already kind of, I could get a job everywhere and anywhere, and I wasn't really that satisfied with it. So,
Right.
um, I don't know what my initial point was. I'm rambling now, but
Do you still sculpt at all, or did you just kind of put that to the wayside?
not as much as I'd like, but yeah, I mean, you know, I still got little
Oh, okay.
sculpture. I mean, I try and I have little sculptures here and there, and I cast them and mold them. I sell them from my website. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Um, with the fine art, every piece I do, it feels like I'm doing something for my future because every painting you do, you can sell the painting, you can make prints,
Right.
and those can sell for the rest of your life. Print editions, t-shirts, mugs, whatever. You can merchandise your imagery. So as an artist, I feel like everything I do is for my future. So I have that thing that I used to have in effects where you're like trying to get your portfolio
Right.
going, you know? So aside from earning money from it, I feel like I'm doing something for my future and for my kids'
Yeah.
future and stuff. So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. How do you, and so I like to ask a lot of artists about this. How do you feel about the current like AI trend? Like if I wanted to right now put in make a fucking apocalyptic art piece like Chet Zar, it
Mhm.
will come up with something that's not you, but it will. Like,
Yeah.
do you have any feelings about like the AI world coming into into art or any of that? Or are you
Yeah. I mean,
fuck it? You know what I mean?
I've been kind of back and forth. At first, I was like, "Fuck it." I don't. For me, it doesn't really matter because as a fine artist, your bread and butter are your
The
paintings and
original piece, yeah.
original pieces. Collectors
Uh-huh.
want handmade original pieces, and
Right,
I don't care if a robot's doing it. It's not the same.
right,
They want
Yeah.
artwork from their favorite artist,
100%.
original pieces.
Right,
So it's not really going to affect me. It's more affecting illustrators and stuff.
sure.
I think the technology is amazing and exciting and incredible, but it's the way it was created is unethical. The way they scraped, you know, they scraped your photos, any photos
Oh,
you had
100%.
online, everywhere.
Yeah,
You're making up that database, and it's not like they're just making it and letting people use it. They're making a shitload of money now, so it's
right.
scummy. They weren't supposed to do that. They used that day. I don't know how much you know about it, but they used a data set that was meant only for nonprofit use.
Really?
Yeah, there's a legal data scraping operation for like nonprofits to use for
Huh.
things that are to better humanity, you
Okay.
know? And so they took that for their research, the database of 5 billion trillion images from the internet, and they made Midjourney or whatever it is, their
Yeah.
AI software. And then they got people using it, and now they're charging them, and they're like this $5 billion
Fucking company.
company.
Yeah.
And it's like that was not that's was wrong for them to
Not
do
the
that.
intended use. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
I
was
mean, it's
kind
like
of
everything in this
sleazy.
fucking world, dude. You know,
Yeah, I know. And
profitize
it's
it, make it fucking make it a nightmare.
yeah,
Steal
yeah.
other people's shit,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
Yeah.
it's so it's like it's mostly the thing I don't like about it is how unethically it was done.
Yeah.
And I don't really trust like the tech world anymore after
Yeah.
seeing I don't know. I was like into the crypto thing for a while. I was
Sure.
giving that a shot and NFTs and that thing. There's
That was a
so
fucking
much
nightmare, huh? Yeah.
scamming and stuff.
Holy
It's
shit, man.
horrible.
I have a
Horrible.
buddy that was he's a really well-known tattoo artist, got fucking hit up to do a bunch of NFT art, you know, for
Hmm.
it was like and he's the only person I've ever heard that got like a win in this shit. He did all
Hmm.
his art, submitted it, got a fat, huge fucking check,
I know.
and then the week later, NFTs crash forever.
Yep.
It's like, okay. And like no one ever fucking approached him again about this
I
insane check
know.
that
I
he got, you
know.
know, and he's like,
I know.
fucking awesome, man. I was like, that's the only person I've ever heard win in the NFT world.
I've heard a few
Yeah.
people win, and I did all right with the
Did
NFTs.
you?
I definitely I came out ahead for sure. So,
That's good, man. Yeah.
you know, it might come back because there, you know, I believe in the use case for like there are some people that are into it and they love to collect these NFTs
Yeah, well, if
only
you look at
online.
like Beeple, like that dude's making some wild shit, right? It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Beeple, you know, like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like that. I get it, you know, like to get a
yeah, yeah.
physical thing from it, and you know, you have access to this whatever. Like it's
So,
beyond my like dumb brain, but
yeah, but
you
some
know,
people are like, it's why do people collect physical art? It's like
yeah,
they want an original for they want to show it to people, they
right,
want to impress their friends, they just like collecting. Why do people collect anything? I mean, I collect certain things. It's like you want to have them because that's the
right,
collector's mindset. And some people like baseball cards. I'm not interested at all in baseball cards, but some people are like totally into it.
right,
And some people are really into these digital only NFTs that only
right,
exist on the blockchain, and it's cool. So it's like it's legit in that sense. It's as legit as any other collectible thing. It's
right.
just like there's all this other bullshit that goes
Yeah, it
along
goes
with
along
that
with it.
in
I've
that
been trying to
space.
collect vintage Betamax porn, and
Yeah, it's crazy
it's
how
not really making me any money,
Yeah,
but I enjoy it a lot.
he's
You
certainly
know,
envying the
yeah,
tapes. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
it's so weird.
That's how I meditate.
I remember Betamax. I remember when it was like
Nice, dude.
Betamax and VHS were the two competing
Oh
things,
yeah,
and
Yeah,
Betamax is better.
yeah,
Betamax is
yeah,
better quality, but
yeah.
VHS won out.
yeah, man.
So
Yeah,
you
fuck.
got, those
I
are,
mean,
your Betamax porn is probably better than VHS porn.
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, even the
Great
tape track,
collection.
you know,
Yeah.
that one song's way better quality than a cassette tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that fucking 70s Harry Bush was like
Oh, it's the
way
best.
more high def, right?
Yes. All natural.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like it's weird because like I talked to a lot of artists about AI, and some of them are fucking adamantly against it stealing my property. Some of
Mm,
them like kind of see it the way that I do a little bit because like as having young children, nothing's off, like everything's at grabs, right? And I think there's a huge part of our like the next generation, and starting with my kids, we're gonna go to tactile fucking like physical properties. Like, and I
mhm.
think that you're going to see like with this emergence of AI and all this, yes, I could create a piece like at the tip of my fingers on a fucking keyboard, but the value, like especially like when my daughter's like an artist, very talented, wants to be a
Cool.
tattooer, sculptor, fucking,
Nice.
I mean, she does everything. It's like it's
That's great.
every single thing. Like so many of the things when I watched in your documentary were like triggers for me, like watching my daughter gather boxes and scraps of fucking fabric and this,
Oh, that's so cool.
everything's going into a room, and I'm like, what in the fuck are you gonna do with
That's
that?
great that you're
And then she
encouraging
walks
her.
out with a full entire fucking fox mask that she made. Like,
That's so cool.
okay, you know what I mean? So it's like there was a lot of weirdly weird shit when I watched your documentary compared to what I'm dealing with my daughter, because she is truly a true creative.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it got to the point where I was like, I can't even help you. Like
Wow.
you're so far above my shit.
All,
Like
all you have to do is encourage her. That's all.
encourage her, right? Yeah, and
She'll figure it out,
that's fine. But like I think a lot of the kids of her generation want tactile
I know.
physical shit,
Yep.
which it's kind of nice because I think all this AI shit and the everything at your fingertips is going to be at a certain point
It's
not
boring.
worth a shit.
It's like if you can have anything, it's like all meaningless
Yeah, but
in a
if you can
way.
make it,
You're
then cool.
right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like that's where I think of it. But I'm also like a dad who has to deal with kids every day that hopes that the future will get better at some point. And not turn
Yeah.
into the apocalypse that you've created on fucking paper, right?
Yeah.
So
I think I think there will definitely be a
yeah,
it always pendulum goes back and forth, back
right.
and forth,
There's
back and forth.
definitely, it's way better to, instead of just picking up your phone, to go put the tape in and go sit down on the couch and watch that movie.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just way more.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
a process. You get
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
really enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, my kids are getting into vinyl right now.
Oh man,
And
yeah.
I bought them both record players for
That's
Christmas.
so cool.
And I don't, you can't tell, but over here I have about 1,000 LPs. I'm a punk rock, hardcore, metalhead. I got
Mhm.
every fucking Dystopia, Neurosis,
Cool.
every fucking band here. And like my boy pulled out a Rudimentary Peni record the other day. He's like, "This good?" I'm all, so good. Like, you know what I mean?
I know it
I'm
was
like, welcome to the world of Nick Blinko, motherfucker. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
my kid became a punk on it. Well, I mean, I had kind of an influence as
Oh
well.
yeah, of course you did.
But he's totally into it too. So like
That's awesome.
he's shows me bands that I missed coming
Yeah.
up that he's
Yeah.
into now,
Yeah.
like Crass and stuff. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like because I was like I got into it like a little late. I was maybe 16.
Okay.
It was Dead Kennedys, but it was
Oh
like Dead Kennedy Frankenchrist, it was
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
the end of
The end of the Dead Kennedy.
Bedtime for Democracy and stuff and
Right.
Minutemen
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, vinyl was so cool because you'd
It's
go. I
so fucking
remember,
cool. Yeah.
I mean, I would buy records in the 70s
Yeah.
because I'm 56. So I
Are you
would,
really?
yeah.
Jesus, you look good, bud. God
Thanks.
damn. All right.
It's
Not bad.
I'm waiting for my
I know.
hair.
I'm
It's going
fucking
gray a little
41.
bit.
Look at me, dude. He's 42. Holy shit, man. That's fucking crazy.
I turned 54 next week.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh
I used to
yeah.
go to Redwood Records, it was a local record store, pick out
Hell
an
yeah.
album because it had a cool cover,
Fuck yeah.
and then you take it back and discover either a shitty band or a great band, and
Right.
then you'd put it on and you'd sit there and you'd read the liner notes and you read the lyrics and you'd look at the artwork, and it was a
Yep.
total experience. And
Totally.
it's just such a bummer that people miss out on that.
Yeah.
Just
A lot of people are coming back around
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it for
yeah.
sure.
Dude.
You know,
Yeah.
and it definitely is nice to go through that whole process of getting the album out and
Oh,
wiping
okay.
it down and putting it on and just sitting
Yeah.
there and listening to an actual continuum of good music from the beginning to the end,
Right.
and not just one good
Yeah.
song that's in
Yeah,
there
right.
somewhere and the rest of it's garbage. It's
Yep.
kind of coming back around to where if you're going to put something out, it's got to be playable through
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah. I
Or
love
like
that.
remember like just skimming through thank yous and seeing like what bands did they thank?
Yeah.
What t-shirts were they wearing? Like they're
Yep.
always wearing another band's t-shirt, and
Yep.
like that's how I
Or
lived my
you-
whole life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and seeing producers' names on different,
Totally.
like
Yeah.
different albums. Oh, that person is like totally could nerd out on all that shit. But that's like that was really one of the reasons I really got into to punk was that the DIY thing, because I've been doing
Totally.
that since I was a kid. And then it's like in high school, junior high, and I liked some cool bands in junior high and high school. Like I was really into Devo, which like I still love Devo because they're like a weird art band, but in high school and rock, kind of like FM rock radio, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
that's all the stuff I grew up on.
yeah, we grew up around the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what I'm talking
I didn't
about.
like, I was just telling him the other day and he looked at me like I was a moron, but I didn't really know Motorhead until, I mean, I was a full grown adult, like in my probably 40s before I really knew who Motorhead was.
That's
me
wild.
too.
You know?
Me too.
Motorhead,
Me too.
I've ripped off for my whole entire music career.
Yeah. And Devo, I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard Devo, Whip It, and all that crap, but I didn't know. Like when I got around all these different people and they're all like going, "Oh shit, Devo." And
They're
I'm
like,
Devo what? Like I didn't get, yeah.
They're deep, man. They're deep.
No,
They're
I got it now, but at the time I was like, "What are you guys talking about, man?"
I know. It's because they had that hit, and it was like, oh, they're a one-hit wonder novelty band, but they weren't. They were like,
but dude, when you see like what Mark Mothersbaugh is like even my kids to this day, like Yo Gabba Gabba. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's all over this. There was this TV show on Nickelodeon that was huge, and he's like a huge part of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, but yeah, Devo. I mean, they're fucking. You just can't deny it, dude. You know what I mean?
Especially like the first, I think 5 albums are just amazing. Incredible. Like they had their first 3 albums planned out, track listing and everything.
Really?
Before they had a record deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Even the one with Whip It. It's like they had all that shit because they were so into what they were doing.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say was, I liked some cool bands. Like I was into Devo. I was into AC/DC.
Oh, yeah.
The best.
I was a huge AC/DC fan, and Rush. I was really into Rush.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And I still love all those bands.
Can I tell you a Rush story really quick?
Yeah.
All right, so you're gonna like this. So I used to work at DW Drums.
Oh,
right,
cool.
Which is where Neil Peart, he's a DW drum guy.
Yep.
I used to sell Neil Peart weed.
No way.
which was like my actual claim to fame.
That's the
I
coolest
sold
thing
weed
ever.
for like my whole, like a long time, right? So at DW Drums, I was the inherent fucking stoner that worked there. Everyone knew I fucking sold weed. I sold weed to half the fucking
That's
company.
great.
Okay, so fucking Neil Peart would come to DW to practice for the tours, right?
Uh-huh.
And he would show up in the most incredible cars, the fucking a fucking 1972 BMW bike that
Mhm.
you've never heard of. You're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? This is crazy. Nicest dude on planet Earth, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a huge Rush fan either, so it's like, I'm not going to deny him, but it's just
Yeah,
not
right.
it's not my thing, right?
Mhm.
But all of a sudden, I'm sitting there at the computer one day, and my fucking boss comes out. My boss, he's like, "Hey," he's all, "Hey man, do you have any weed?" And I'm like, "Is this a fucking trick?" And he's like, he goes, "Neil Peart wants some weed." And I was like, "Hold my beer, dude."
Hold my bong.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so I fucking literally like ran home on my lunch, grabbed an ounce. He wanted like some of the best weed I could possibly find, right?
That's
So
great.
I throw it in, like, I don't know if you remember these stash cans, but they
Mhm.
look like an Arizona iced
Yeah.
tea, right? So I fucking throw an ounce in, and of course I'm charging double because it's Neil fucking Peart. This dude has money, right? So I hand it to his fucking drum tech, and he's like, because it's like you're told like don't make eye contact with him,
Mhm.
and he's the nicest dude ever. Like he would totally be fine with it, but they're just weirdos.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hand it to his drum tech. He walks over and hands it to Neil Peart, and Neil Peart looks at me and he's holding this Arizona iced tea can, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Unscrew the fucking top," and he unscrews it, and he's all, "Oh my god!" And he pulls the weed out, and he's like, he throws it on the counter, and he's thoroughly inspecting this Arizona iced tea can. He's like, "This is amazing. Like, where the fuck did you get this?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like the head shop, like." And he's like, "Can I have this?" I'm like, "For 20 extra? Yeah, you can have it." So he fucking hands me an extra 20.
That's
And
amazing.
apparently he used that on every fucking tour he ever went on after that until
Holy
he
shit.
died, apparently.
Okay, you have to clip this for your clips
Yeah.
channel because man,
He
that's
will.
gonna
That is my claim to
Yeah.
fame. I
Rush
sold Neil
fans.
Peart weed,
Yeah,
dude.
that's historic. For Rush fans would love to hear that
He was
story.
more enthused by the Arizona iced tea that it's like his brain was like, how the fuck did they do that? I'm like, "Hey fool, you're doing triple paradiddles on
Yeah,
drums.
right.
Like, I'm pretty sure you could figure that one out." But
It's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah, it was amazing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just.
Well,
That's my
my-
one awesome
So,
story.
but
it's amazing. It's an amazing
being the age that
story.
you are, so you were like 16 when you got into the more of the punk stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
I was a little late to it. Like I remember it's funny because I was always kind of like snobby with music, even as a little kid.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah, it was weird. It was strange because I remember when I was little, when punk came around, like the older kids in the neighborhood, there was a handful of them that were listening to it, like the Jam and the Sex Pistols. And I used to like tease them and think, oh, this is so dumb. They don't know how to play their instruments. And I'm like this little 9-year-old kid. Imagine the little 9-year-old
yeah.
kid thinking he knows
Little
anything.
shithead, yeah.
Yeah, total little shithead. And so I just didn't pay attention to it. But I was looking like through junior high and high school, I was looking for something more out of like rock music. So I was like trying to get it. I got really into prog, or I was
Yeah.
like, like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, yes, and all that. And it's like I liked it, but that wasn't quite doing it either because it was kind of boring. A lot of it I found boring.
Right.
And then I discovered a friend of me a friend of mine who was a punk in high school made like a mixtape of all these bands like Minor Threat, Dead Kennedys, uh just all the classic punk
Black
bands. And he
Flag,
like,
all the bands.
yeah, Black Flag, Circle Jerks. He like and he got this big piece of paper and he wrote the name of the band and he gave me like a little history of what the
Oh,
band
that's
was
awesome.
about.
Hell
And he
yeah.
folded it up and it fit in the cassette deck. So I like listened to the tape and I'd read about all these different bands because he was so happy that someone was getting
Getting
interested
into
in
it.
punk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it's like, then it all then I was like, so I was kind of interested. And then I heard Dead Kennedys and just the lyrics and everything. It was it for me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get it. I remember it just clicked. Oh, I understand it now. I understand it. Like I wasn't really mature enough to really get punk music, I feel like.
Right.
And this
I'm gonna
all happened.
I'm gonna listen to the Dead Kennedys on the way home just so I could see if maybe it'll help me get into it.
Oh man, so yeah,
Yeah.
listen to Plastic Surgery Disasters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll put
That's
it
a
on as soon as I get out in the truck.
it's
Yeah.
great. And
Because
you
I'm
got to
still not into it, man.
yeah.
I
you got to
still and I got a ton of friends
Yeah.
obviously that are way into it, but I've been hip hop, funk, R&B since 84, 83,
uh-huh.
84. I've been into, a lot of funk, a lot of
Mhm.
R&B
Yeah.
back then,
That's cool,
and
yeah.
then more into the hip hop
Mhm.
and then it came back around. I started listening to metal and that stuff again, but I just could never get into. My brother would come home and try playing like Dr. No and Aggression and all these Oxnard and Narcore bands, and I'd be like,
Uh
man, turn that shit off, put Ice Cube back on. I ain't listening to that shit.
it's like the thing with for me the punk bands that were good were my favorites anyway, were the ones that were really unique. Like Dead Kennedys has a unique sound. It was
Oh,
Right.
weird.
100%.
Had
Yeah.
like a surf guitar, but the lyrics are really so funny and clever. They're
Yeah.
really like kind of a cut above most punk lyrics.
100%.
They're funny. They're funny as hell and dark
Yeah.
and creative. But yeah, it's like it all kind of came together around 86, 87. I like discovered punk and got into it. Totally changed the way I looked. Before it was like nerdy
Little clean
frog
cut kid.
guy with a kind of semi mullet, sort of really
Yeah.
normal looking. And then it was like, oh, I finally found my people. And I just,
Yeah.
totally kind of changed the way I shaved half of my head. And I was like, got a tattoo. Um, uh, and
What was your
around that
first
time,
Yeah,
tattoo?
that's what I was thinking. What was your
What
first
was your
one?
first tattoo?
oh, that was, it's,
You still got it? Still repping, dude? Oh shit! Oh yeah, dude.
Oh
It's
my
it's so
God.
lame that I don't want to touch
Oh,
it.
I'm so
like,
glad you didn't cover
wow.
that up,
Yeah,
dude.
man, I've covered mine up 3 times. Yeah.
I can't. It's so every tattoo artist I show, I know all these like famous tattoo
Yeah, I'm
artists.
sure. Yeah.
They're all like, "Oh my God, don't do anything to that."
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I turned 18, I got that.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
But I don't have I have another one, but I don't have a bunch of tattoos. I like them, but I just never really got that many of them.
It's weird because I meet a lot of like real artists that can't do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't do tattoos. I could see like your brain's always moving. Like, can you
Yeah.
settle on an idea for that long? Like,
Yeah,
I could see
there's
that.
yeah, for me it's like it would have to have, I would really want it to be something meaningful.
Right.
And I haven't been grabbed to do it. Plus I don't have a lot of time to go, and
Yeah.
I'm just always hustling and stuff.
feel you.
So
And you're more unique. You don't have fucking tattoos now. You know what I mean? I started getting
yeah,
tattoos
I know.
years old. I'm like,
yeah.
it's like now if you don't have tattoos, everyone's like, well, look at this guy, old bear skin over
yeah,
here.
right. What's wrong with him? Weirdo.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Nope.
Your fucking parents love you, dude. What the fuck? Yeah.
But I discovered punk, and I was in this band, and I got into the film industry, and I moved out of my parents' house, moved up to Hollywood. I tried psychedelics for the first time, had this mind-blowing mystical experience on psychedelics. It was like 87, I think it was around 86, 87. It was just like this huge, massive change where I like kind of discovered myself more fully, So it was all that stuff together was it all kind of came together, and it was like, oh, this is who I am. It's like, and you're a kid, you're trying to find out who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Beautiful, man. I mean,
how much did that trip help? And what was the particular, was it psilocybins? Was it acid, DMT?
It was acid and mushrooms. It was whatever we could
Wow.
get, whatever was floating around. It wasn't both. It was like a summer.
Okay.
It was a summer where I was.
Yeah.
That's when I was doing all that Ouija board stuff too.
Okay.
And we were tripping doing the Ouija board, and just like it was great. It was super fun. It was in Hollywood. It was just, imagine being young, have your own apartment. I had in this cool place with a bunch of other artists, and then
Before LA
tripping.
was fucking hip as fuck. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
was so cool, man. It was so much fun, and then, like, all these great bands were playing. All these amazing bands in LA. Cool, like Fire Hose was playing all the time,
Yeah.
and it was just it was
Like,
all these SST bands,
yeah.
Meat Puppets and stuff like that.
I know you're a big No Means No fan, right? There you go. That's what's up, dude.
No
What
means
what is the
no.
significance of that band? Because every true artist I know loves that fucking band. I don't get
It's
it. I don't think they're bad at all, but it
it's
doesn't hit me
so
on the level that you
good.
guys.
It's
Every fucking real
so
artist loves that band. Why?
I don't know that many. Honestly, I've only met one other artist that's into them.
Well,
And I
I
don't.
I know a lot of musicians, and I'm sure I should say a lot of musicians, like
Okay,
musicians love that fucking band, dude.
it's like
I'm
they're
surrounded
like,
by people that absolutely are all day telling me how fucking amazing.
okay. You have to
I'm not
listen
saying
to.
they're bad. I
I know.
just,
I
you know,
know.
at all.
You
But
have to
what is the
listen.
significance for you?
You have to
What caught you?
listen. You listen to the album Wrong. There's an
Right.
album called Wrong. Listen to that album. It's amazing. Every song's amazing, and
Mhm.
it's got a lot of songs on it. So you owe it to yourself to give it
Right.
a shot. Listen to that album. It's so amazing. It's a super tight musicianship.
Right.
Almost like punk prog, a math rock a little bit,
Yeah.
but just really great songwriting, really aggressive sounding.
Mhm.
His bass tone is like the ultimate bass tone. It's so ugly and it's
Yeah.
perfect. It's he's very influenced by Lemmy of Motorhead, his
Right.
bass playing.
Right.
Um it's a three-piece Canadian. They're kind of, I always sort of saw them as like a punk version of Rush. Maybe that's why you don't like them,
Sure.
because you don't
Yeah, it
like
makes
Rush
sense.
either.
No, I like I said, I've heard him a million times. My bass player for my band for years, massive No Means No fan.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so I'm well versed in them, and I think
Oh,
they're
okay,
a
okay.
great fucking
Yeah,
band.
it's the thing is, though, it's like
Yeah.
they some of their music is challenging because they do,
Right.
like, some songs are really long and
Right.
repetitive, and
Right.
but the album Wrong is like
The
their
shit.
sweet spot, where
Yeah.
it's like short songs, super catchy, amazing playing. The
Yeah.
drummer also, the drummer is like a jazz drummer, and
Okay.
but like a punk jazz drummer. He's really, if you're into drums, he's just
Yeah.
amazing drumming. So
But
and also super deep, great lyrics.
yeah. Yeah, because
So
I mean, as far as Canadian bands, Propagandi's always got that fucking, that whole deal. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You're like,
DOA.
fuck, those guys are fucking a tip top. But No Means No is a thing that comes up often, and I'm like, every fight, like every rad dude I know
They're
loves No
so
Means No.
good.
But I'm such a fucking meathead caveman that if it's not like Neurosis or I Hate God, I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like now my kids are convincing me of shit now, but only because
Yeah,
I built my
yeah.
whole identity off of like, I mean, I have like the Neurosis Times of Grace on my hand. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Uh,
such a weirdo about heavy music. You know what I mean? Like it took me
yeah,
years to even like punk rock. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
But
mean, that's the thing. What I like about No Means No is it's as dark as any uh dark metal, but like in a different way.
sure,
It's like uh kind of doesn't beat you over the head with how
yeah,
everything's down tuned to just so, some of that stuff is just so like just
yeah,
like
yeah, 100%.
it's like that, but it's more like psychological,
Okay,
like nerdy
all right,
psychological
yeah,
guys doing that.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel
Rush.
you.
It's dark. What's that?
Rush.
Yeah, it's
Nerdy
like,
guys playing
yeah,
high level music.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
just a different
different
tone.
version. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like it is like a
Three
punk.
piece band from Canada.
Yeah,
That's
with
why.
an amazing drummer
Yeah.
and amazing lyrics.
that's
And a
awesome.
great
Yeah.
bass player. It's kind of like, yeah.
Well, I know we've had you on for a while. I did want to ask, just in all the psychedelic trips that you've taken in this universe, are aliens real? Have you met some? That's what I
You
want to.
know,
How do you feel about it
I
before we get out of here?
again, I feel like all of that stuff is connected somehow
Yeah.
with spirits, paranormal, aliens. I don't see them as like,
dimensional kind of thing.
yeah, I would think it's more of a dimensional thing. But the thing is, it's like, we don't even know what reality is
Right.
or
Yeah.
what is a thought? It's like,
Ooh, yeah.
what is this crazy shit?
Yeah.
It's like uh, like I was saying before, I saw this guy, I think his name's Andrew Gallimore. He did this really good interview on this podcast called Concrete with a K. He's like
Concrete's a good podcast, man.
oh man, the one
Yeah.
with Andrew Gallimore, he's a psychedelic researcher. He's like a scientist, super
Okay.
smart dude. And the way, he was describing the brain, we're used to thinking things like, oh, we're looking out and seeing the world around us. And he was like, the brain is in a completely cut off it's in a black box, cut off from everything. And it's like your eyes are just these sensors that let information in. And it's like, it's not what you're seeing is not really necessarily its final form or what it
Yeah.
really is made out of. And it's really, I really kind of, he talks a lot about the brain and DMT, and it was really kind of enlightening. But he talks about all that stuff too, alien and beings and DMT realms.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It seems like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like with the ghost things, it's something.
That's probably the most perfect answer, because anyone that knows is full of shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
It's
like,
like you meet
how
people
could
like
you
Jesus freaks
don't
are like,
know?
I know what happens. They're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
even if you
all
think
right.
you
Yeah.
don't.
100%.
Nobody
Yeah.
knows. That's why it's you can have ideas about it, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I don't
fucking A,
know.
bro.
But it's
Yeah.
something. I do think there's something. I just don't know what.
But you're a proponent of chasing it, right? Try it.
What do you mean?
Try proponent of fucking trying some mushrooms. Go on a fucking trip. Discover
Y-
some shit about yourself, dude. Get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm a big proponent of that shit.
for the right people though, because I've seen people go crazy after doing it. It's
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, if it's like it's powerful, and it can, if you're not ready for it, it could be.
Yeah.
Dan, I was like that for years. Like, everyone should do it. It would
Oh, okay.
change the world. Everyone should do it. And then since I'd seen a couple people like totally lose their shit after because they weren't able to process
Process.
everything,
Yeah.
and it was such
Yeah.
a shock to their reality that
Sure.
it's like, that they think they're Jesus, that, and they can't get back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah,
so it's
there's
like,
gonna be that, you know.
I didn't take any type of psychedelics for a long, long, long time because when I was growing up as a kid, my dad had a friend named Clem that had taken acid
Yeah.
and never came back.
really?
And so when I was a kid, Clem would come around and he'd be talking to him and he'd just go off. Like, I mean, you'd see him just leave,
Yeah.
Wow.
and so I'd hit my dad. I'd go, hey, Dad, what's the deal with old tree dude over here? Because he'd just be like, oh, the trees are talking. And he'd
Oh
go, man, he
man.
dropped acid one time and he just
Yeah,
never
that's
came
it.
back, son. He goes, and that happens sometimes. So,
Yeah.
be careful. So I didn't take acid until I was probably 49 or 50.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of mushrooms though. I still enjoy them as often,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I was scared to death of doing it because I didn't want to be that guy,
Yeah. Well, that's
Now
the
I don't
thing.
care.
Yeah.
If some people are predisposed to schizophrenia or stuff, it could, you got to be ready for it, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But
Start with a microdose.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Start off slow.
It took me a while to build up to the Terrence McKenna fucking heroics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, like, at certain
Yeah.
points, I'd take a whole quarter to myself and be like,
Wow.
"Yo, we're fucking going," which I love. You know what I mean? But I had to
I
build up. You know?
yeah, I had I really felt a difference when I first tripped. The first time I tripped was on acid at a Grateful Dead show of all places. We
Ooh,
went there just to get the acid,
hell yeah, dude.
and it was amazing and so strong.
Yeah.
And and then, I always say like acid was electric powered and mushrooms were like solar powered.
Yeah.
That actually is a really good. That's
I
a
like
really
that
good
analogy a
dude.
lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
but once I did DMT and I had that kind of crossover experience, which was 15 years later. It wasn't, it's 5, 6 years ago. Ever since, acid and mushrooms is like the same
Really?
to me. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like I don't really it's not I don't see that many visuals.
Yeah.
It's more about it changes the way it just gives you the value is the way it changes how you think.
Sure.
All the visuals are like fun, but that's not the main part of
No.
it. The main part of it's when you're coming down or during it where you have these realizations.
Right.
And so it's like I don't really even when I don't do it too much anymore, but the times I do, it's just I don't have a lot of. I mean, it might be partially because when I do the turn off the lights and close your eyes thing, so
Oh,
I'm not looking at the walls to see if they're bleeding
right.
or
You're using
melting.
it for actual, like, to dive deep in yourself, and
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is
That's
honestly what it should be used for.
I'm
yeah.
not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I did
Nope.
I did mushrooms and did a float tank,
Nah.
dude. I did mushrooms and did a float tank, and that was
That must be
I
amazing.
probably did a fucking 10 years of growth in that
Yeah.
fucking thing.
Wow. Yeah.
It was the weirdest, craziest thing I've ever experienced in my entire. I did a Native American sweat lodge once,
Mhm.
and that took me to another fucking planet. You know what I mean? Just
Wow.
because you're like totally it's a 2 hour ceremony. It's hot. You're sweating. You're in this
Yeah.
tent, and you can't and you fasted before, and it was a whole
Wow.
incredible ceremony. And then I did that. I did a float tank. I took some mushrooms when I did it, and I was in there for an hour and a half, dude. And I was like on another goddamn planet, like another plane
Wow.
of existence. And I probably did like 10 years of fucking therapy growth,
That's
in that.
amazing.
I could use probably another 35 more, honestly. You know what I mean? But I still did some work, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's I think the true intention of that stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Really do.
sure.
So I mean it's beautiful, man. But
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
well, dude, we've had you on a good amount of time. I think we're damn near an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Thank you
sorry.
so much for coming on. Where can people find all your stuff? You want to throw some
Yeah.
links and Instagram handles and stuff out?
Yeah, I'm all the social media. I'm just at Chet Zar, like one word, ChetzZar, and chetzar.com, at Chet Zar everywhere else. And my podcast is called the Dark Art Society Podcast, and that's on all the Spotify, all the podcast platforms, and also on YouTube. We started doing it, posting it on YouTube
Yeah.
last couple of years, trying to build that up. And I got a patreon.com/chetzar.
There you go. Yeah.
And anyway,
And your
you can
book,
get
right?
my book, Dystopia.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get to everything, my web store and my Patreon and everything on my at chetzar.com.
Dude,
Awesome.
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, brother.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's fun. Thank you for having me on. I
appreciate you.
appreciate it.
Hey, take care, Chet. Good meeting you, man.
You too.